Okay! Welcome to episode 2 of Nihongo Knowhow. Today, we'll be exploring the K rope. Ba-ba-bam! Woo! What does that even mean? Well, you know how in episode 1, because I believe you're following this after watching episode 1 and practicing the sounds for a week, right? I sure hope you are. Well, anyways, you know how we covered the basic vowel sounds a, I, U, E, O, in the first episode? Well, we're going to be doing those same vowel sounds, but this time adding a K consonant in front. I'm going to teach you the pronunciation for that, how to get it down authentically and correctly, and then I'm going to show you how to draw those characters. So by the end of today, after watching this video, you should be familiar with the K row of sounds with those vowel sounds, and you should be able to write them. I think that's about 5 more characters. So then after this, you'll have learned 10 characters, and that's pretty good. We're hitting the double digits. All right, so let's go ahead and start. I'm flipping the page. I'm having trouble flipping the page. All right. Wait, I can still see the other page. No, that's better. Okay. So we're gonna go over the first character, ka. Here is how to draw it. This is going to be a little bit more complicated than the a, I, U, E, O part, at least in my opinion, just because this shape that I'm going to teach you for the character is a little unconventional. It's a little unlike anything we've seen before. So if you are just coming in with knowledge off of just the English alphabet, it's going to be a little bit of a twister, but you know, that's okay. We're going to go through it together. As always, I'll teach you with the left hand and the right hand as well. With the left hand, for ka, we are going to draw it like this. We're going to have a little line up here. So if you can think about a little grid here again, I want you to keep this line kind of in the middle area. This is going to be the middle of our grid. We're going to come down with a hook, just like that. If you can think about the letter J again. So we have a line going at an angle up here. Then we have a little J hook. Then from here, we're going to take a line here, a little above, and draw this little X. So you have a little sideways X and then a J, if you can think about it that way. And then we're just going to draw a big old line out here. And that's ka. Again, if you want to think about it in terms of quadrants, we can split this up into a grid where this is just going from into the upper grid, and it's going to go down into the lower part of the grid with the J. You're going to come back here and do this. It's not really easy to describe what that shape looks like overall, but the best way I'd explain it really simply is it looks like a sideways X over here, a J, and then kind of like a lowercase l or a little slash mark over here. I'll go over it with the right hand as well. Again, there can be some variance in some sizes and proportions in the character, but overall you're looking for the little up hook, wah, wah, just like that. So with the right hand, same thing. We're going to start with that little upper angle here. We're going to come down and swoop with a little letter J. Then we're going to come down and cross down here. And then we're going to do a little symbol like that. So again, you can see kind of how it's a little rotated up this way and that way. Not a big deal, but the main thing is we want to be able to see that difference in the quadrant where that first stroke crosses from this bottom left part into kind of like these top two parts over here, these top two quadrants, if that makes any sense. That's going to help you get an authentic size. So it's not like that or something, but you're going to do a 1, 2, 3, 4. Just 4 strokes, but again, the proportions and the looks of those strokes are a little different than what you might be used to, so it could be a little bit confusing at first, but definitely use this grid to help you figure out where things are going to be. So, you know, draw your character, draw the grid, and try to get it where I have it over here, where it looks like we have the X on the left part of the quadrant, the J is kind of like right down the middle here, and this little squidgy is on the top right quadrant over here. Okay, now again, for going over the sound ka, let me tell you just what we did last time. I want you to think about it with a starting point of the sound and an end point of the sound. And in between that starting and end point, I want you to keep that voice of yours kind of monotone. Not super or but So for ka, which is this character, I'm going to have you say the sound a little bit in the back of your throat a little bit. So if you can think about the classic American sound, it's a bit more front forward with your lips and teeth in that area. So I'm going to say it like really lips and teethy right now. Ah, 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 ah. It's kind of ringy. It's kind of in your face, right? We want to tone that back a little bit. That's kind of the Japanese way of saying these things, especially once you input this K consonant instead of it becomes ka. It becomes really important for it to not be a ka and more of a ka. So ka, bring that voice back, bring that into your throat a little bit, and that should help you get an authentic sound. So let's practice this together, okay? This one's a little bit more difficult, but we're gonna get through this. All right, I'm gonna say it, and then you say it. Try to get it to sound just like mine. Ka, ka. You go. Ka, ka. Okay, so hopefully you were able to distinguish kind of like the less ringy ka sound and more like the ka sound. So bring it from ka, bring it into your throat a little bit. Tighten the back of your throat a little bit if you need to. Not so much that you're gonna, hurl up your guts or anything, but enough so that it sounds a little bit more muted, a little bit more monotone, and a little bit more lowercase, if that makes any sense. So ka, 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 that's the sound we're looking for. As when you're making that K consonant sound, I also want that a little bit more in the back of your throat. So instead of having the k, 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 really k in your face sound, you want to dial that k sound so it's more of a k, 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 if that makes any sense at all. So it's a little bit less prominent. So less prominent vowel sound, less prominent consonant sound. It's just a little bit more back in the back of the throat. So difference from ka to ka, ka. Okay? All right, let's go over how to draw this one more time, really big, just to help with memory. So again, we can think about a quadrant here that's going to really help us proportion things properly. We can kind of have like, it's pretty much a square. That is not a straight line. Let me fix that. Hold on. There. If you can imagine this is a perfect square, that would be fantastic. Okay, so we're going to start in this lower bottom left quadrant here. I'm going to draw here. I'm going to cross all the way up over into this top right quadrant. I'm going to swoop down the middle-ish with that sort of J shape. Then we're going to come back here, and we're going to go from this top left quadrant to the bottom left, and we're going to slant it this way a little bit. Okay? And then the last step is just having a little squirt in the top right quadrant here, okay? That's going to look like that. So that is the character ka, ka, ka. All right, let's move on to the next one. I know it's a little bit more difficult, but don't worry. We're going to go over more speaking combinations and whatnot as we get a little further on. But let's move on to the next character. So just like how we moved from a to i in the previous episode, we're going to go from ka to ki in this next one here, okay? So let's go over how to draw ki, and then I'll help you out with pronouncing it properly, okay? So ki starts with, if you can think about the quadrant again, that's going to really help us to proportion things properly, especially since these characters are a bit more unique. We're going to think about one little diagonal line up here, and then just kind of imitate it so they're kind of parallel. And then I want you to slice and give it a little jagged edge here. Jagged edge, that's what I meant to say. And then all we have to do left is just a little sweepy smiley face. That is the character ki, ki. So I'm going to show you how to draw with the right hand as well. This time I'm not going to put a quadrant out just so you can see the character by itself a little bit better. But we're just going to have an upper slant, parallel upper slant. We're going to have a little jagged edge. Try to keep that jagged edge more to this side and not to this side as much. It makes it look a little bit neater. And then, of course, we have our little sweepy character down here. That is ki, ki. Again, think about the sound with a starting point and an end point, And in the middle of that starting and end point, I want you to keep that voice kind of flat. Now, since you have a consonant again, I want to remind you it's the same K consonant sound from ka. Only difference is that the sound that we're making afterwards with the vowel is now the E sound. So I still want to keep that k sound in the back of your throat, a little bit more lowercase. But for the E vowel sound, it's not as muted. It can kind of be how you'd normally say it. But again, of course, don't say E or E. It's E, E. So you can practice saying E with me first, just like we had before, because you practiced it last week, right? I mean, I sure hope you did. We're going to have E, E, E. Then we're going to hit that k, 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 E, ki, ki, ki. If you can hear that sound, it's a little different than if I were to draw the letter K and I and tell you or ask you to read it. It wouldn't be like ki, 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 but it's more ki, ki. There's a bit more breath in that K sound, k, 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 and less of a harsh k, k, k sound. You know, it kind of sounds like a beatboxing. We're not beatboxing out here, okay? So kind of a breathy key sound, if you can try to make it in a more gentle way, that will help to make it sound more authentic. Ki, ki, not ki, 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 or ki, 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 ki. It's ki, ki, ki. Okay? Now let's go over how to draw it one more time, really big, so we can go ahead and get that to memory. Okay, so we're gonna have a big slant, another slant, jagged edge on the right side, and little smiley face down here. And that is the character ki, ki. Now, when you see this ki character in your Japanese text, if you are reading Japanese text by now, or if you're texting the character out on your notes to, help you remember things, it might look a little different. It might look more like this without the jagged edge, and that's okay too. But handwriting for Japanese is typically a little bit different than the print you're going to get online. So there's a Japanese text custom font that comes with a lot of smartphones, and those characters are just going to look a little bit different than handwriting. Handwriting characters have some unique aspects, and this little jagged edge is one of them. And it's perfectly fine to write it this way too, if you want. I just think this way looks better overall and looks more authentic. Whereas it's harder for me, at least personally, to get the proportions right when I don't add this little jagged edge over here. That is a personal thing. So if you really hate this little jagged edge with a burning passion, you can get rid of it and people will still be able to read it. It's okay. But this is just my preferred way of doing it, so that's going to be how I'm going to teach it to you. Okay? All right, let's move on to the next one. This next one is super, 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 super easy. In fact, you already know how to write it. You just need to associate the sound with the character. So let me go ahead and give us a fresh page to work with. Wonderful. All right. So like in math, oh my goodness, I know I'm mentioning math, good grief. But you know how you can say like 3 is greater than 5. Hopefully you do know. If you don't know, I'll show you real quick. So this is the number 3. We say 3 is greater than 5. Or 3 is less than 5, or less than or equal to by adding the little bar down there. You see this character right here, this little sideways V? Yeah, well, that is the k character. So if you can think about the sound that we studied last week, right? We're going to add the K consonant just in front of it, and it's going to kind of change. It's not going to look like that anymore now that we're adding a consonant to it, and it's going to look like this. K, k, k. That's the same, the same kind of breathy k. It's not k, 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 k. It's k, k, k. So I'm going to go ahead and say it, and you can say it with me. Okay? K, k, k. All right. Alrighty. So it's super easy to draw, right? So I'm going to just go over left hand and right hand just for completion points, But again, if you can think about that quadrant, compared to the greater than sign, I guess it's a little bit more open, just slightly. It's not exactly like a arrow, but it's a bit more, as you can see, kind of how I made it a little bit stretched out vertically just a little bit. And it looks a little bit better for us. So I'm going to start here and end it there. Super easy. With the right hand, same thing. We're going to start up here, and we're going to end it there. It's really, really easy to draw. Again, notice how it's a bit more lengthwise, not lengthwise, height-wise, kind of stretched out vertically rather than horizontally. But it's just a very minor thing. Again, if you write ku like this, it's not the end of the world. People will still be able to read what you're writing. But again, to get the authentic, more genuine Japanese-looking ku, we're going to make it a little bit more vertical. And you can even add that little bend here, as you can see. It doesn't have to be like that. That works fine completely too. This is totally okay. But if you want to make it look a little bit more pretty, you can add a little bit of a tiny bend to it, and that is okay too. So again, we're just going to go ahead and we're going to draw this really big. I trust you didn't know what this one is now. It's just literally one stroke. It's not even a 1-2, although you can do that if you want to. You don't want to have this little jagged edge if you do the second one, so I keep it in one stroke. That's how it's originally taught in the grade schools when everybody's learning how to draw and stuff like that and write those characters in Japan. So you know what? We're going to do that too, right? So that's the character ku. Fantastic! Fantastic! We're more than halfway through. You're doing fantastic. What? Okay. All right. So we went over ka. We went over ki. We went over ku. The next one is going to be that e vowel. Again, we're going to put that little K sound in front of it, so it's going to change the character's look completely, but it will sound as if you just attach that kind of breathy K with the e. So ke, ke. So this is it. Let's go over ke. I'm going to give you a new page so you don't get confused with any of those characters one at a time, right? Ke is relatively easy to draw. I'm going to have this little grid again here because I think it really helps with proportioning things when the characters get a little unfamiliar in appearance to us. When they're a little bit more complicated or just different. Although this one's not particularly complicated, it's just 3 strokes. But it is a little unique with how it's drawn. So I'm going to show you right now, all right? I'm going to have you start in the top left quadrant up here. And then I'm going to have you draw kind of like a parentheses. And then give it a little, what do you call this? A little toenail. It is a really weird way to describe that. But you know what? We're going to keep it. We're going to call it a toenail. And then I'm going to have you make a little horizontal line here in this top right quadrant. And then I'm going to have you draw the other parentheses like that. And I don't no toenails on this end. It's kind of just like that bendy lowercase t. I'm going to make that a little bit longer there. If you remember that bendy lowercase t that we made for it's kind of like that, but on the other side. So it's like this instead. Okay? I'm going to scribble this out so you're not distracted too much by it. All right? So we're going to draw with the left hand one more time. A little parentheses, give it a little jagged edge. You're going to add a little T on the other side, and kind of you give that little bend. So it's kind of like a set of parentheses, except the parentheses on the left has a toenail, and the one on the right decided to be a crucifix for, I guess, religious reasons. Go you, I guess. Okay, now we're going to go over that with the right hand. Again, we're going to make the little parentheses, get that toenail in there. We love toes. What? Never mind. And then we're going to continue on here with this little horizontal line here. And then we're going to draw it down like there. And that is ke, ke, ke. Now, by now, I trust you've become a little bit more adjusted to that breathy K sound by practicing it with me. You are practicing it with me, right? Good, good, good. Well, we're going to go ahead and say it one more time really big. And we'll move on to the last character. And we'll get you out of here, okay? Draw it really big here. All right, let's practice saying it. Ke, ke, ke. One more time. Ke. Fantastic, fantastic. We are basically almost done. And you have been doing fantastic with going through this with me. I really appreciate you. All right, so we've gone through ka, ki, ku, ke. Do you remember what the last one is? Can you predict it, I guess? That's the better way to say it. Well, we went I, U, E, O last time, so we're going to end with ka, ki, ku, ke, ko. And this one is actually kind of similar to the previous character we've drawn, but it's kind of like rotated almost. So let me show you what I mean, okay? I'm going to draw a little grid here. Perfect. All right, now instead of doing the parentheses this way, we're going to do it this way. So instead of left to right, up and down. And it's still going to have that weird toenail thing. It's just going to be like this now. Instead of having it like this, we're going to rotate it up to the top and have it like this, okay? Let's just scribble that out. You don't need to see that anymore. And now the last part is just a little smiley face, because we like to keep things happy. Now, if you want to draw an authentic ko, which is what this is, now you want to have that little toenail, of course, and you want to keep this part here a little bit longer than this part. So you don't want this. That's a little, I mean, you can tell what it is if you give it a real good guess, but it looks a little funny. It just looks a little misshaped. We don't want that, okay? And now this is one of the times we are being specific about proportions. And again, this is why I have the grid for you, so it's a little easier to see. So we don't want that. We want this. So see how this is just a little bit longer in length than this over here? Yeah, that's what we're looking for, okay? Now, it's just 2 strokes, so it's just, I'll show you with the right hand as well. Again, and you have a little, it's kind of like the parentheses bend, and a little curvy smiley face here, have it a little bit longer. That is ko. So again, just like the vowel o that we went over before, I want you to have your mouth a little bit O-shaped when you say the O sound. But for k, for example, k that we went over earlier, I do not want you to say ku. It's not ku, it's k. It's a very relaxed sound. If you just have your mouth relaxed and you just start making a noise, like you're complaining, you know, k. That's kind of how we want the k symbol. You want to have those lips kind of relaxed overall. You can think about the top and the bottom lip kind of just relax like that. But for the ko sound, I do want you to have your lips a little bit more rounded. It doesn't have to be a perfect O. No one's going to find your address if you just, you know, have that a little bit more oval-like or a little bit more sideways oval-like, if that's the correct word for that. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be perfect, right? But it does have to have some sort of round shape for the ko sound to make it sound more authentic. Okay, let's draw this ko one more time. Really big. Let's get that shadow out of the way. Looking a little suspicious there. Ko. That is ko. All right. So we've gone all over the characters with the K-row. You're doing great. And I'm very proud of you for making it this far. Now let's just go over a few words that we can make with our new characters. So let's go ahead and look at which characters we have. So from episode 1, we have a, I, U, E, and O. Now from this episode, we have ka, ki, ku, ke, ko. All right, so now we have 10 characters. That's a lot. Well, I mean, it's a lot more than 5. It's times 2. Wow, times 2 bonus. Let's go. So that means we can make more words, and we can make a lot more words now. So I'm going to teach you a few of them just for funsies here and to give some practical reasoning to put these characters into use in your brain so you get used to them faster. All right, so the first word I'm going to teach you is kao. Kao. Now, if you can think about the accent here, you can say kao or kao. I kind of said it a little strange there, but it really should be kao. Kao. I was just kind of thinking kao, but really the way you say it here is kao. And this little step process, whether we go step up or step down, I will teach you in more depth in a different episode. But for now, just roll with me here. The main point is getting those characters ka and o and putting them together and getting used to those sounds. So we're going to go over that. But again, for the specific word kao, for the word that means face, actually, we are going to say it kao, kao, kao. Okay? All right. That's the first word we have here. Now we're going to go ahead and take 2 from this row that we just learned, and they're right next to each other, actually. And that is ki and ku. Now, instead of going up to down here, we're going to go down to up. That's how we say it. Again, I'll go more in depth about why we do this and how we do this in a different episode. Just roll with me for practicing these characters first, okay? So it's ki, ku. So if you can think about a note, you can have that note ki, ku, ki, ku, ki, ku, ki, ku, like that. That means to hear or to ask. Yeah, the same one. All right. So to hear or to ask. Kiku, kiku, kiku. All right. Nice. All right, I'll teach you one more. And it's actually going to be a double character. And then we're going to go ahead and show you how to say this with the step up. Koko. And this is a really good one to emphasize that sort of step process, which again, we'll go over more detail next time or in a different episode. But this actually, koko, means here, as in here next to you. In Japanese, we have 3 ways of kind of pointing out a position, especially if you're talking to someone. You can think about, this is just a side note, I think it's really interesting and cool about the language. Let's just say this is you, okay? I'm gonna give you some, well, you're not naked, I don't think. So yeah, you're fine. And then we're gonna go ahead and draw someone else. Let's just make them a little bit more different so we can differentiate them. And they're just a little squiggly, all right? And let's just say there's a tree in the distance. Tree, okay? And you're just talking to bro over here or sister over here. And you want to say koko. If koko always means next to you. Koko always means next to you. We're going to go over these characters and sounds later, but just so you know, soko, soko means over next to the person you're talking about. So instead of here next to me, it's there next to you. So koko, soko. And then if they're really far away from both of us, like a tree in the distance, you can say asoko, asoko. So koko, soko, asoko. Koko, here next to me, the one speaking. Soko, here next to you, the one listening. And asoko, there next to wherever else that's further away from both of us. Just a little tip. I think it was really interesting about Japanese when I first learned, so hopefully you do too. But there we go. We've gone over 3 words here. Kao, kiku, and koko. And we've gone over the K row. And, of course, I'll have you review this 5-vowel row from episode 1 as well. Okay? So I want you to practice going over the K row and the first 5 vowel sounds once per day. I'm just asking you to say 10 vowels once per day. We say way more words than 10 per day, so I know you can do this, even if you're like washing your hands, which I certainly hope you do, or if you're, I don't know, driving or walking somewhere, or you just have a moment, just take a moment to say these things, you know? No one will think you're insane. You can tell them what you're doing. If they do, they'll be like, what are you saying these weird sounds for? Well, I'm actually practicing Japanese. Oh, you're practicing Japanese? And you can tell them all about what you're learning, huh? Yeah, that's a great opportunity to spread the love for Japanese. I don't know what I'm saying at this point. I've already taught you everything you need to know, so let me just shut up and go ahead and end the video, and I will see you in the next one. Wah!